Hi guys, Britism here. Today I'm going to talk about what I consider to be my favourite release in the history of Games Workshop and its association with Lord of the Rings, and that's the Fall of the Necromancer supplement that came out in 2006, 20 years ago. And I'm going to talk through it and why I love it so much. So this book came out in 2006, like I've said before. I think it was May 2006, and I'd only just got into the hobby. And it was at a time where the films had finished a few years previously, but there was still a good, healthy following for the game, and they were releasing a lot of what they called source books at the time. This was the second one, I believe, of this sort of era. There was one called The Shadow in the East that came before it, and there was loads more afterwards, like Arnor. There was one on Khazad-dûm, if I remember rightly, a Mordor one. Loads of expansions. But this one, by far and away, is my favourite, and it's before the Hobbit films, as many of you will know. The Hobbit films didn't come out till 2012, so this was sort of an original take on the Fall of the Necromancer, and it really did blow me away in terms of the quality of it. So let's take a little look in what was in the source book itself. So you can see that it had really nice art, photos of miniatures, the Spider Queen there versus Lorien archers, Lorien warriors, wood elves. Some real nice work put in. And it was at a time where there was like a lot of artwork made by GW as well. Like you can see some of this artwork around here that's really, really cool. There's a story about the coming of the Necromancer and how at first, obviously the White Council were very reluctant to take on the threat of Sauron, or didn't even believe it was Sauron. Well, certainly Saruman didn't, whether that was genuine or whether it was because he didn't see the threat at the time, or obviously he would turn to darkness many years later. But this was a very different take to what we got in the Hobbit films, by the way. This was well, it's certainly more loyal to Tolkien's work than the Hobbit films, let's put it that way. But let's continue to take a look. But you can see that, the effort that GW were putting in at that time to the Middle-earth strategy battle game, or the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game as it was then, was immense. But what I loved about this particular codex and this particular release was the miniatures that we got with it. So let's just go forward to some of the miniatures that we got with this release. We got painting guides, obviously, but you can see that we got a new Saruman miniature. We got a White Council set, which included Saruman, that version of Galadriel we can see on screen, Círdan the Shipwright, Erestor and Glorfindel, and Thranduil as well, Legolas's dad. All included in this set, and I remember at the time of release it was like £20 for 6 metal miniatures. I mean, what would that cost from GW now? I do not even want to know. But that Saruman miniature, in my opinion, is one of the best pieces of, well, one of the best sculpts I've seen from GW for Lord of the Rings. I really do like that sculpt. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just that particular sculpt that's always done it for me. I've got a couple of versions of Saruman myself, but not that one at the moment. I did have it before, but it's been lost to time. So at one point I'll try and get another one on eBay, or if GW decide to release it at some point made to order, I'm hoping that I'll be able to get hold of one. But yeah, they released Wood Elves. So this was the first time they released like a proper Wood Elf army. Before then you could get metal Wood Elves, but it was the first time they released like a pack of 24 plastic Wood Elves. And that was like really cool because we could actually start building a Wood Elf army, so that was nice as well. But the evil miniatures were superb. So Khamûl had already come out, by the way. So Khamûl the Easterling had already come out in the previous set, The Shadow of the East. But they put a slightly different take on him for this one, so they painted him all silver underneath to match the Castellans. Whereas if you see him in the Shadow of the East release, he's got like Easterling paint underneath him, which is like really quite cool. It's quite different how they did it differently for the Necromancer release. But obviously we got the Necromancer miniature itself, which I also think is just an incredible miniature, if I'm honest with you. We got giant bats, bat swarms. We had the Spider Queen, giant spiders. And like I say, I think it was just such a cool release. Like, you just got so much stuff in this release. It can't be bettered, in my opinion. I don't think there's been anything as good since. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, whether you agree, whether you disagree with my take on things. But I honestly think this is, by far and away, one of the best codexes that GW ever released. And some of the scenarios are really cool as well, which we'll take a look at in a moment. There's some really nice scenery in there. So the trees, I never attempted that.
but I am actually going to have a go to honour the 20th anniversary of the release of this set. I'm going to actually have a go at building this version of Dol Guldur, because obviously it's very different from the Dol Guldur we saw in the Hobbit films, and very different from the Dol Guldur set that GW released in 21. This, for me, it's in some ways it's a little darker. You know, I know people think, oh wow, the Dol Guldur in the films is like really dark and twisted with the metals and the, you know, just the fortress and things, but this has got a certain like witchified element to it, if you know what I mean. And you can see it just sort of belonging within the woodland, you know. Whereas I suppose that fortress of Dol Guldur we saw in The Hobbit was a little bit not as subtle as this. I'm trying to find the right words for it, but I think this is a bit more subtle. You could almost imagine this like not being noticed within the Treesland, whereas that massive structure in Dol Guldur in The Hobbit, it was a lot more noticeable. So I actually like this set quite a lot more. I'm going to have a go at making this scenery at some point in the near future, and I will put it on my channel. Yeah, so it's got all the rules about making the miniatures and making the scenery and things. Gives you some ideas of basing and all that sort of stuff, the tower. But this is what I loved. I loved the coming together of all these good characters from Middle-earth. You know, all these heroes from Middle-earth. So Saruman, when he was good. Radagast the Brown, the proper Radagast the Brown, in my opinion. I mean, I don't dislike the Hobbit films, but I see this as being more of the Radagast, not totally eccentric and total wackadoo like he is in the Sylvester McCoy take on him. But this version of Radagast is, I suppose it's a little more, I think, how Tolkien envisaged. You know, one with the earth, but not one that's necessarily covered in bird droppings and total wacko, really. Galadriel, Lady of the Galadrim. Círdan the Shipwright. Glorfindel, Lord of the West. Erestor. We had Thranduil. Obviously, this was, again, before the Hobbit film, so it's not Lee Pace's take on Thranduil, but I do like that version of Thranduil, actually. And what I'm going to do for this year is I'm going to put together a bit of a reimagining of the Fall of the Necromancer based on this take of it. So I'm going to sort of do a 20-year anniversary sort of tribute to this release, because that's how much I liked it. I'm going to get some Wood Elves. I'm going to create the White Council as it was envisaged here. So obviously the White Council in the Hobbit films is literally just a makeup of Gandalf, Saruman, Elrond and Galadriel, whereas in this it's got literally like, there's about 12, 13 different heroes appear. So you've got Arwen there, you've got Radagast there, you've got, I know Radagast appears briefly in this, but in the Hobbit films at the White Council battle at Dol Guldur, but he just disappears with Gandalf on his sleigh. But you've got Radagast in this, you've got Arwen, you've got Elrond, you've got Saruman, obviously, Gandalf, Galadriel, Glorfindel, Erestor, Círdan the Shipwright. You've got Legolas himself. Legolas is there. Yeah, you've got quite a few heroes all get together to battle the threat from Dol Guldur. So let me just go back to the scenarios very briefly, because this is the one I'm talking about. This is one I'm thinking about recreating. You can see there, you've got all the heroes of Middle-earth assembled for a last stand against the Necromancer. You can also see the Necromancer's got ring wraiths, Castellans of Dol Guldur, long out of print, by the way, the Castellans. GW don't make them anymore. You can get them on eBay, but be prepared to remortgage your house. Mordor Trolls are in the scene as well. Mordor Troll Chieftain. I really do like this take on it. It'd be cool if we could do like a mixture of this version matched with the Hobbit version. So you could have a few characters from the Hobbit version, like you've got the Dungeon Master, or the Dungeon Keeper, or whatever the hell he was called. You could put Azog the Defiler in there, but you could keep this as ensemble cast as well. That'd be really cool. And what I would do is, if I was to do this version of the White Council, all these characters together, I would put in the Lee Pace version of Thranduil in there. Oh, and I also mentioned Celeborn's there as well, but Celeborn's always forgotten, bless him. But you can see there, these are the participants. You've got Gandalf the Grey, Saruman, Radagast, Arwen, Círdan, Glorfindel, Erestor, Elrond, Galadriel, Celeborn, Thranduil, and Legolas. On the evil side, you've got the Necromancer, K'mul, 5 Ring Wraiths, 4 Castellans, a Troll Chieftain, a Mordor Troll, and 4 Giant Spiders. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and recreate this at some point very, very soon. I'm going to try and recreate it with the scenery. I'm going to recreate the council coming together, and we'll see how we get on. This was also at the time, by the way, guys, when White Dwarf actually used to dedicate a lot of time and effort to the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game as well. Now I consider it, well, I think it's fair to say that most people would say it's treated like an afterthought by the GW gang, to my great distaste, but there we go. So let's have a little look at the articles in White Dwarf that accompanied the release of Fall of the Necromancer. So this was building up to the big release. And like I say, it really added to the hype when White Dwarf used to do a big thing on it. So you can see there you've got a little bit of an editorial. First page, you've got the gathering of some of the Ys. You've got the alternative painting there of Galadriel in white rather than the blue when she goes all demonic or possessed or whatever it is. You've got scenarios, you've got playthroughs, battle reports. It's brilliant. So let's skip to it. It's sort of announcing the figures that are coming out. Look at these prices. Look, Wood Elf Warriors, pack of 24 of them, only £15. Wild. Now what are they, 30 something? And, you know, okay, there's inflation and things like that, but come on. I saw GW's profit report last year, so, you know, the way that they've shot up so much is pretty much undefensible, really. You've got the White Council, so like I said, 6 miniatures there were 20 quid. I mean, that's wild, isn't it? 6 metal miniatures, £20. I mean, yeah, granted, that was then, and you'd expect them to go up a little bit, but I bet if they re-release this now, if GW made this made to order now, I bet we'd be talking 45, something like that, maybe even 50. But anyway, you've got Castellans, £7 for 3 Castellans. Give me a break. 3 metal miniatures for 7 quid. I think only one of them, I think to buy one of them on eBay now is like 20 quid. But that's like the false scarcity that GW likes to practice, isn't it? This idea that, you know, oh, these are very rare because they're now made to order or out of print, even though they've got the sculpts for them and they can bring them all back at any time. But anyway, giant bats. You could get a giant bat for a £5. Giant spiders for 6 quid. Oh, I miss these days. Wood Elf Command for 6 quid. But anyway, yeah, let's get to the battle report on it, because this is really quite cool. You can see that they actually went to a lot of effort here to do a playthrough. They did like another profile on the White Council. You can see there, you know, they've really gone to town on it. They've put an army together of Mirkwood Forest Guard back in the day when you could basically do what you want with armies. Oh, I miss them days as well. When you could ally different factions together. I mean, the chances are that wouldn't even be a legal army anymore, to be fair. And certainly not the gathering of that White Council. And what GW have done with the latest rulebook, you can't even put that White Council together for a proper campaign. You could only have 5 members of it, which is Gandalf, Saruman, Radagast, Galadriel, and Elrond. Whereas, you know, it'd be really cool if you could put together that big assembly of this lot as one army. Wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, that would be like you've probably got 1,500 points, best part of there, something like that. So do bear that in mind. But, you know, I just wish. I mean, I suppose you can do what you want at home, but that was certainly not tournament legal anymore. But yeah, they had a full battle there. Look, you can see that they talk about how the characters did. So Saruman the White gets a call out as the leader of the Order. He's got a lot of magical abilities and things like that I used to deploy quite a lot. But I'm going to try and recreate this. I'm going to have a go at recreating this entire scenario over the course of this year to celebrate 20 years of this release. Because in my opinion, this is far superior to the 2021 release in my book. But you might disagree. And to be honest with you, I'd like it if you do disagree. Just let me know in the comments what your favourite source book was, your favourite expansion of GW was. in terms of Lord of the Rings, and we'll have a conversation. That Mordor Troll Chieftain, brilliant. What a game, eh? But Adam's man of the match was Saruman the White, so, and obviously Matt's man of the match, who was playing evil, the Necromancer himself. So, and I've actually got the Necromancer. I'm going to end this video for today with just a couple of screenshots and bits and bobs of my Necromancer miniature that's going to be the centerpiece of this homage to the 2006 release that I'm going to do this year. So I hope you enjoy, and thank you ever so much for watching, as ever.